Hey everybody, Jason here from Short Course World. Today I'm doing the final review. I guess this is like the final review, or final review part 3 or whatever. I guess I've got like sequels going here on these reviews, but I had originally done a review on the Tekno EB48. And I had had kind of a, I don't want to say a bad experience, but I didn't really get the experience I wanted when I bought the buggy, and I had some issues, and I won't bore you with the details. Maybe I'll make that last video available, maybe I won't. But anyways, long story short, this is my Tekno EB48. I bought this buggy about a month ago. I've run it indoors, outdoors, a few different surfaces. I've run it in Illinois, I run it in Michigan, and I run it now in California. And overall, I guess I don't really have this video scripted like I normally do. I try to structure them and organize them real well, but this time I'm winging it, so just bear with me. It's a good buggy. It handles well, it corners well, it gets through the rough sections amazingly well, and it jumps and lands as good, if not better, than any other e-buggy I've ever driven. Overall, the build went well, went really well, but it does have flaws, and we'll get into that in a minute. Some of the things that are kind of noticeable about the buggy are how narrow it is. I don't know how much you'll be able to see, but it's a really narrow buggy. I mean, it's super narrow. The chassis itself is just really, really narrow, which is nice. And it's obviously it's a high-grade aluminum. The electronics go in the buggy all on one side. So everything but the battery is on one side. Now you'll see there's a little opening here, and this is so that there's an option so that if you want to run a mechanical brake, you can. Now obviously to run a mechanical brake, you'd have to buy the braking package, which is about 60 bucks. And then you turn the diff around, and then you'd have to run either a long shank pinion, or you can run like the Tekno electric clutch or traction control system. It's basically where they take a nitro style clutch and they put it on an electric motor, and I think that's about 40 bucks. I don't think you have to have that. I think you can still run mechanical brakes with just a regular long shank pinion. I'm not terribly sure, but I never intended to do that, and I still don't. I'm running a Savox 1258 TG servo, and I know a lot of you e-buggy guys are probably going to cringe when you hear that because it's only got about 167 ounces of torque, but the wheels lock out, the buggy does well. I've got the low profile OFNA servo horn, the Tekno RX8 Gen 2, and the 1900 kV motor. I've got 17, 18, and 19 tooth pinions, and I can tell you that 18 seems to be as high as you'd ever need to go with this buggy. This is a 17 on here now, and it's worked well in quite a few circumstances. And some of these small indoor tracks, you could never get up to top speed even if you wanted to, and I'll try to throw in a quick hot lap video from a couple of different tracks. This is a Trinity titanium battery. I think it's like a 5600 milliamp 90C or something like that. Whatever it is, the batteries work good. I've got no complaints. But overall, it's been a good buggy. Here are the flaws to the buggy. Well, I guess I'll just hang on to it. So you've got your front brace, your middle brace, and then your rear brace. Now, what guys have been doing are they play around with taking these braces on and off in order to get the right amount of chassis flex, because having the right amount of chassis flex, or more chassis flex than standard, can increase traction. So you might want to take the rear one off, and it gives you a little bit more traction. You take the center one off, and it gives you even more traction. The downside is, what I have found from doing this with other vehicles, is that sometimes it can be a real inconsistent traction. It's kind of like you allow the chassis to become more of a spring than it was designed, and so you're coming through a corner, these braces are off, so the chassis flexing and the car's loading up, and it's really got a lot of traction, and then it snaps loose on you unpredictably. So I decided to leave them on. I haven't really had problems with rear traction in this vehicle. I don't know if you can see or not. I'm sure you probably can. There's bright orange springs on this that are Kyosho springs. This buggy actually comes with, I can't remember the colors. I've got them buried in my toolbox, so I won't dig them out. But I know that the spring that this buggy comes with is pretty close to a Kyosho orange up front. But in the rear, a Kyosho orange is like almost a pound heavier. I think that the stock spring is like a 2.6 pound spring, and this is maybe like a 3.4 pounder in that area. If you look on the first page of the Tekno EB48 thread on RC Tech, I'm not sure who it was. Maybe it was Matthew Armeni or one of these guys has went and they've just done a lot of work to give you spring charts and pictures and diagrams and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So I've run the buggy with several different combinations of diff oil. I've run it at 755, 753, 555. Right now it's at 573. It's not bad at 573, but it doesn't really have quite as much on-power rotation as I would like. And a couple of, I definitely think it could be a little bit thicker in the back, probably 575 or something like that. And in fact, I might even consider 510.5, which probably seems a little extreme to some of you guys. But today when I was running, I definitely noticed that when the traction started to go down, I could see the front tires ballooning a little bit. So just my preference probably. I've heard people tell me that on this particular buggy you can get away with running a much heavier center diff. So that's something I'm going to consider in the future. All right, so what are the cons of the Tekno EB48? Well, they're not huge. Well, actually, that's funny because this was one of the cons. My gripes, and this is obviously trivial, but I'm not a big fan of the body. I didn't put the sticker on there. Somebody at my last racetrack did because they thought that'd be funny. But let me show you the other side. It's not a bad body. It fits the chassis well. I will say this. You see I've got a couple little holes here. Now that's nothing major, but this thing fits over the servo horn and the speed control very, very snugly. So it'd be nice if they would have extended this a little bit farther or something so that there was a better way to actually vent and create a little bit more airflow over the speed control and over the motor, but it is what it is. It's no big deal. So in my, personally, I think the body's pretty ugly. And the guy on the forum, Chris, said, "You painted it white." Well, sure I painted it white. I was being lazy. But that doesn't have anything to do with the fact the body's still ugly. I mean, it doesn't really matter because Jay Contos makes a pretty sweet body for this buggy. So I wouldn't let the body hold you back. So that's my first gripe. The first con is that I think the body is, not pretty. Maybe you like it. If you do, good for you. Okay. The other kicker is there's a really long drive shaft in this buggy, and maybe I'll zoom in and maybe I won't. I probably won't. I'm going to be lazy when I edit this video. I just want to get this done because I told a lot of people I would. But this drive shaft, it's steel, and what happens? They have to heat treat it, and then they have to straighten it, and it's really hard to get something like that perfectly straight. I mean, they can probably get it within a pretty reasonable tolerance, but when it's spinning as fast as it is in a vehicle like this, if it's out of round just a little bit, it's going to be significant when it's I don't know how many thousand RPMs it ends up going. So if you really mash the throttle, you get this nasty harmonic. So I ended up ordering the aluminum option part, and from what I heard, the aluminum option part is far better. It's a piece of tubular aluminum, although some people have mentioned that even the aluminum one, as time goes by, can get out of round. But I mean, it's a $15 or $17 part for the option part. It's not something that would hold me back from buying the buggy now. I was a little salty about it when I first bought the buggy. I was like, I spent all this money in the buggy. It couldn't even come with a straight drive shaft. But I'm sure Tekno's taking all this information. I'm sure that they're gathering information and making decisions. I've heard in the past that Tekno had some problems with a spider gear. I don't know if it was in their short course truck or maybe both of the platforms, and they mailed them out to everybody. So my gripe was just like, hey, if they're willing to send out spider gears, why? And this is clearly a known issue. They've let me know. They've said something on the forums. Tons of people have brought it up. This is a known issue. Hey, either find a way to get us a straight drive shaft, or send us the aluminum one, or give us a smoking deal on the aluminum one for $10 or whatever. But do something. It's not cool to sell a full kit, a full-on race kit with that kind of a flaw. Something that's going to make noise and be nasty, and not only that, but it's right next to your battery and your electronics and stuff. What if it got really bad and destroyed your electronics? That'd be a real bummer. I don't know if that's happening. I'm just saying, what if, right? So my first gripe was the body. My first gripe is the drive shaft isn't all that sweet. My third gripe is going to be the motor mount. I hate to say this, but it's just poorly engineered. There's a couple little ribs right here, and they're going to bend. Now, I haven't had any problems with the motor mount bending, but I have had friends that have had that problem. And it may have something to do with removing the center brace. I can't really confirm that, but I know a lot of guys have had the motor mount bend. So clearly it's an issue. So that's that. My next gripe, my next con is to get the center diff out, it all has to come apart. A lot of these buggies, you can just remove the top halves of these pieces and get it out, but you can't do that with this. You actually have to remove the whole motor mount in order to get the center diff out. And that's a bummer. It's just more work. I guess since we're going to go ahead and bash on it a little bit, let's go ahead and tell you the good part. The good part is that this all comes out super fast with just a few screws. And I mean, you can literally have the whole electronics package out of this car in literally 2 minutes. So I guess if you're racing at a muddy event or something like that, that would be a massive bonus. You could just pull all this stuff out, hose it down, and it would be pretty clean. That would actually be pretty nice. Other than that, the buggy handles good. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it handles good. From what I understand, lots of guys have needed to put a new toe block here in the back, which adds, I think this is like maybe 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 degrees of toe in, and the next one is like an extra 1.5, so maybe it's 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I haven't needed that. The buggy's been good. It's got a ton of steering. It does. This buggy has more of a when it comes to like handling characteristics. It doesn't really feel like it steers in so much with the front end, so much as it pivots off the front end. I've driven the Kyosho MP9E, or a converted MP9 TKI that was converted to an e-buggy. I've driven the RC 8.2E. I've driven Mugens, Serpents. Out of all the buggies I've driven, I shouldn't say out of all of them, but I will just say this. This particular buggy, it tends to rotate aggressively, not so much steer in with the front end. And I've tried playing around with some different springs, some different oils, some pistons and things like that. But I actually like the pistons and the oil that the kit comes set up with. I bought the Tekno 8x1.3s, and I just thought it felt better with these. That's just my opinion. Maybe it's my driving style, but I've also got I think I may have even shortened the link up in the back one hole, and I know, as a matter of fact, I know I did. I know I shortened the rear link up, and that's just another preference, a little bit more camber gain, and still with that low roll center. But overall, it's a good buggy. One of the major downsides that I think should be, or at least it should be something, if it's not a limiting factor, something you should think about, is the fact that this buggy just really isn't supported well in a lot of areas. I was at one of the nicest RC racing. I had the opportunity for 3 years to race at one of the nicest racing facilities in the Midwest at Leisure Hours Raceway. And if you want to check it out, it's leisurehoursraceway.com. And it was just an awesome facility. 120 by 60 indoor clay track, like a 180 or 200 by 50 or 60 or 70 outdoor track. I mean, it's indoor off-road, outdoor off-road, and then an outdoor paved on-road track. Just an amazing facility. And they could order Tekno, but they didn't carry it. No one there ran this stuff. And that's probably because Tekno's a newer company. But I went to Michigan, and it was the exact same story. They had a buggy kit on the wall at Dirt Burners, but they didn't. If I had to roach the spur gear, no go. You roach an A-arm or a shock shaft, you're straight up out of luck. Now down in San Diego, it's like Team Tekno going on down there, or Club Tekno down there, right? Because everybody runs them, and there's tons of part support. So I would definitely be careful what you buy, and just understand this. It's a good buggy if you want it and you're not supported in your area. I would keep a couple of shock shafts, a couple sets of A-arms, and a couple of spur gears on hand, because that's probably 90% of what you'll destroy or break in a bad accident. I've cartwheeled the car a few times, nothing terribly bad, and nothing's broke, so it doesn't seem overly fragile to me. I've heard people say, oh, they've crashed it and broke it, but I've had a couple of good bangs with other cars. I've had a couple of cartwheels. I came up short a couple of times on some jumps, and overall, it's held up well. So I may end up trying. I'm seriously thinking about trying out the new Losi 8 3.0 and converting that to an electric buggy, or I would really like to get my hands on a new Kyosho MP9E TKI. A-Main's got them on pre-order. So this buggy could go on the chopping block, and if it does, it's not that it's a bad buggy. It's just that I'd like to try something different. I originally bought it because I wanted something that shared the same platform with the short course truck. But where I'm at right now, not that I'm far from Southern California. I guess technically I'm out in the desert, I guess you'd say. At least that's the way I feel about it. But there's just not a lot of Tekno support around here, so I don't know that it really makes sense to run the Tekno vehicles. I'm thinking maybe the Losi buggy or the Kyosho buggy, so we'll see what happens. But it's been a good buggy. It handles good, it's fast, it's durable. It's got some flaws like I shared with you, but I think Tekno's working on it. As a side note, I don't think I brought this up yet, but I had done a video, and I was kind of salty about it. So I got in touch with Tekno and I said, hey, look, I made this video. I wasn't trying to bash your guys' product or company. I was disappointed. And the guy, I'm assuming, I'm guessing it was Dan Lewis. Can't be sure. Someone from Tekno got right back to me and said, hey, we're not mad at you. We realize that consumers are the people that point out flaws in products. And hey, when you point out a flaw and other people agree, that just ends up in the long run making the product better because we want to fix those flaws. So buggy, good. Tekno company, really good. I'm a big fan of the Tekno company. So there you have it. That's my opinion on the Tekno EB48. It's a good buggy. It's narrow. It does a lot of things well. It's a very athletic, good performing buggy. Is it my top choice for any buggy? I don't want to say no, but probably not. There you have it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys found this review useful, and hopefully I'll see you next time.